Hello everybody and welcome to the Zelda Universe Roundtable, now operating on its own and kind of separately from the main podcast. With me, I have a bunch of lovely guests. Everyone, please introduce yourself simultaneously at the same time.
Hello, my name is Elias Thompson, and
I'm
the Twitch director at Zelda Universe.
Hi, I'm Jesse.
All right, now introduce yourselves individually from Cody and then go.
Hi, my name's Cody. I'm the community manager here at Zelda Universe. You may know me from the Zelda Universe podcast, for example. I'm here to talk.
That sounds good. Elias?
Yes, as both Cody and I just said, my name is Elias Thompson. I am the Twitch director at Zelda Universe. I oversee all the segments there. And I have been on the podcast once before and have been mentioned twice before. I think I'm the only staff member that's been mentioned in every episode of the podcast thus far, which I'm quite proud of.
He is also a returning Roundtable member, so welcome back.
That's what I just said, but yes, it's good to be back.
I mean, you said that you were mentioned. I'm saying specifically that you are returning to the Roundtable. And Jesse!
Yes, hi, my name is Jesse, or as a lot of people may know me, Game Over Jesse. I used to write for Zelda Universe a long time ago, and it was some of my friends that I made when I used to write for Zelda Universe who invited me here on this podcast. So I'm very happy to be here to talk with Cody and get to know everyone else on here, and hopefully if it all works out, I'll be invited back in the future.
Hopefully we will, and maybe we'll get some other people to join you. So first off, we're going to start off with some quick icebreakers, as the kids these days say.
Don't say that.
When they're trying to get to know people.
You're the kids these days. You're like 13.
I am not 13, for the records. What is everyone's favorite weapon to use in the Zelda series that's not the Master Sword, because that's cheating?
The Master Sword.
It's this little thing called the bean plant, or the magical bean.
The magical bean?
The magic beans, yeah.
Would you like to describe how you use that as a weapon?
Well, the useless variety that comes from Majora's Mask, because they disappear after you use them for when you go back in time. Unlike the Ocarina of Time version, which stays there for 7 years. So, yeah. No, okay, so...
How is it used as a weapon?
No. Okay, so favorite weapon, hook shot, long shot, yeah.
Okay.
Hook shot, long shot, claw shot, whatever they decide to rename it in whatever Zelda game, that would be my favorite. Playing Breath of the Wild and reading one of the interviews that they had where they mentioned they had taken the hook shot out because you had played through the game feeling like Spider-Man, which kind of broke the game, made me want it even more. So...
Alrighty, what about you, Cody? What is your favorite weapon in the Zelda series? The shovel, I bet.
There have been some great weapons in the Zelda series, like a rod that can turn people upside down. That's a classic. But in Breath of the Wild, I've really been enjoying the two-handed weapons, at least when you get enough stamina for them, just being able to just endlessly spin around in circles and cut all the grass. Has been good fun.
Okay, and Elias, your real favorite weapon?
Also the Master Sword.
That's how it's going to be. All right, and personally, my favorite weapon is the ball and chain. I love using it in random weird circumstances.
Why?
I always use the ball and chain. It is my preferred weapon of mass destruction against everything.
It's almost as awesome as the giant's knife.
Wow, that's a low blow.
No, sorry, I don't know.
Hey,
I was hoping someone would say giant's knife as their favorite weapon, and since they didn't, I felt obligated to say it. I'm sorry.
Honorable mention, giant's knife.
Okay, thank you.
And that sword from Majora's Mask that's not the full upgrade, but it's halfway to the upgrade, but looks cooler than the full version of the upgrade.
Yeah, doesn't it? It's in the artwork and everything.
For real. Should have switched it. Come on, Nintendo. Listen to us. We're clearly the top experts on design and stuff. What are your guys' favorite Zelda games to fight in general? Like, are there any games in particular you're just like, man, I just like killing things in this game? It's a Zelda game.
Hyrule Warriors.
Hyrule Warriors? I enjoy fighting in Hyrule Warriors.
I also enjoy fighting in Hyrule Warriors.
there is an epic moment in Skyward Sword towards the end where you have to. Honestly, it's kind of like Hyrule Warriors because you're taking down like 100 bokoblins. So
That was fun.
yeah.
So wait, is your answer Skyward Sword then?
Yeah.
Okay.
When motion control is working correctly, I would say the best to actually fight in would be Skyward Sword because there is more variety.
And on the topic of motion controls, how did you guys all feel about combat via motion controls? I personally had no issues with it, but what did you guys think?
My favorite Zelda game to fight in is Breath of the Wild.
Okay, motion controls, Cody. Motion controls.
Oh, motion controls? I think they are... I mean, Skyward Sword's motion control... Let's just forget about Twilight Princess's motion controls. They're not even real.
They don't count. They're not even motion controls.
If it's not one-to-one, it's just sort of like a... It was an added gimmick. It was sort of okay, but like... It's basically identical to the functionality of the GameCube version, which isn't the same. You couldn't say that about Skyward Sword. Like, the motion controls were an integral part of Skyward Sword, which I enjoyed. It's sort of... I think there's a split on it because of just the way that people move. Like, because it's the same with just, like, Wii Tennis. People who just actually sharply move their arm and stuff tend to just make it so that the thing is disconnected and you keep having to redo it. But other people who sort of have smaller motions, I think, probably had more fun with Skyward Sword. But yeah, I had no real problem with the motion control in Skyward Sword.
Yeah, and that's a main reason why a lot of people don't think Skyward Sword could ever be like remastered or re-brought over. And I think they should just do it again with motion controls because the Joy-Cons are capable of it. In fact, it might be even better now that there is technically a right and left-handed Joy-Con.
You can do it with... You can do it... Like, Okami, for example, was a way of doing slashes in certain directions that you could do on a controller or with motion controls.
Now, where does Okami fit in on the Zelda timeline again?
It's the best Zelda game featuring a wolf.
It's after Breath of the Wild.
It's Twilight Princess 2.
Got it. Cool. Alrighty, what about you, Cody? You were... Not Cody, Elias. You were showing some dismay.
Well, I think the motion controls in Skyward Sword...
Please explain your full
Again.
thought, Cody.
Repeat it in full.
Okay, so I think the motion controls in Skyward Sword are okay. It's not like Twilight Princess. We shouldn't even mention the Twilight Princess's controls, really. Like, you could basically just play the GameCube version.
This is why I love you all dearly.
So with Elias...
Yes.
Yeah, so with Elias, you seem to not like the motion controller Skyward Sword very much.
Yeah,
so I would love to hear what you say.
Clear groans of dismay.
Is that what you think a groan is? Okay.
Possibly.
No, it's yeah, I understand. So when Twilight Princess came out and it was like, the waggle control, right? One of the first thoughts that comes to your mind is, "Oh man, I want to hold this Wiimote like a sword and swing it around 1-to-1 in the game." That's what everybody thought they wanted. Then Nintendo basically gave it to us in Skyward Sword, and everybody realized, oh, okay. So, I understand why they did it.
Was it an actual issue with the controls, or was it just the way Nintendo went about it? Or was it just the Wii?
I mean, I feel like, honestly, they went about it as everyone was expecting them to. It just didn't, separation between reality and expectations, so... I see why they did it, and Skyward Sword is a game, but I am happy to see them move back to what is more of a standard now.
Yeah. So do you think it should have been a thing where if you just swiped the controller left to right, it did a left to right strike, or if you just swiped the controller up and down, it did an up and down strike, compared to literally the perfect movement of, oh look, I'm moving my thing in a circle, it's going in a circle?
I think it should have been the thing where I should have been able to play with a Pro Controller.
Oh, okay. And Jesse, your thoughts?
Yeah, so with the motion controls, I thought it was great when your Wiimote decided to actually listen and understand what you were saying. I know a lot of people would have a lot of technical issues. Some cases every time they tried to play, no matter if it was on their system or a friend's system, they would have issues. Other people would say that they thought they just had a bad Wii or a bad Wiimote, because when they played at their friends, it was a lot easier and a lot better to do what they were actually trying to do. With myself, I was actually lucky to where I had no issues at all. My Skyward Sword worked almost perfectly, which is probably why I liked the experience so much. The motion control with Twilight Princess was
Odd.
like the aiming, the arrow was kind of all right, but then everything else is just like you just waggle the controller, and then it made it a lot easier to do like spin attacks and jump attacks, but that was about it.
Yeah.
With porting Skyward Sword over, I know I've played on the emulator, the Dolphin emulator, Skyward Sword with the Xbox 360 controller, and you could set it so that if you moved the right stick to the right, Link would swing right. If you moved it to the left, he would swing left. And it worked okay-ish. Like, it wasn't the best experience, but it wasn't that bad.
So kind of like I was saying earlier with maybe like you swing to the right, it like the Wii remote to the right, it would just automatically make Link do a right swing instead of like what Nintendo gave us kind of thing.
Yeah. And then I could see them, if they did bother to remake it, if they wanted to be a bit nicer to friends or to fans, and give like in Twilight Princess, they had the flipped map from the Wii version and the GameCube version, and in Ocarina of Time they had Master Quest in the original. If they wanted to do that and be nice for fans, they could give an original version of Skyward Sword with motion controls mapped to the motion controls that the I almost called them the Wiimotes, the Joy-Cons have. But they could also have a stripped down basic version to where there are enemies, but say when you go to fight one of those golden Deku Babas that opens up almost every way, whether it's horizontally or vertically, and you have to kind of guess, or you have a split second to know which way you need to swipe your sword. They could make it so that maybe they still do that to where they change, but you can just hit it anyway. So you can just like tap A or B, and no matter how it is, you're always going to do damage, where they can make it so that it only opens up the one way that you're allowed to hit them. Basically an easy mode for motion control, but just a basic sword swing mapped to a controller that works on all enemies, no matter if they have the shield in the proper place or not.
And similar to you, I don't remember having a whole lot of issues with the motion controls when I first played it, or even in my repeat ones where I did hero mode and all that stuff. So, but I can definitely see people's frustration, especially if their Wii remotes, I think it's like infrared, IR sensors weren't, the best. But as you guys all kind of mentioned, Skyward Sword faced a lot of like judgment because of how wonky the controls would be at some points. Another game, or another two games technically, that got a lot of flack for their control schemes were the DS games, Spirit Tracks and Phantom Hourglass, and those two had a kind of different type of control scheme for fighting, the Stylus Controls. So how did you guys feel about those? Jesse, you can start this one off.
Oh no, my name's Cody. I think you meant Jesse.
I'm Jesse.
I'm Elias.
Oh, okay. So Cody, what was your opinion on the Stylus Controls?
Well, the Stylus Controls. Look, I didn't like them. I think they're fine for a phone game. I think they're good. Like, if you made a mobile game that was like Magikarp Jump or whatever, except it was a Zelda game, go ahead, do the tapping and swiping stuff. It makes sense, but like...
I forgot Magikarp Jump existed.
To disable the D-pad and have it do nothing was just sort of like, you have to play my gimmick. You're not allowed to leave until you've played my gimmick, which is... Pretty much, that's Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks in a lot of other ways as well, blowing into the microphone to, play instruments and all that kind of thing. It was fine, but I didn't really like it.
Elias?
I pretty much disagree, or no, I'm sorry. I pretty much agree with Cody on every aspect except that I did not have a lot of fun. No, that was a terrible control scheme that was forced upon the DS generation, and they correctly abandoned that forever.
Yeah, I can see why they abandoned it. They abandoned it. Jesse, what about you? How'd you feel about it?
I also agree with Cody on all of my life choices. Anytime that I need to make any important decisions, I try my best to seek out his wisdom. So I will just agree with him on this. Okay, no. So I didn't like the motion control. I felt it got better in Spirit Tracks, but I think that may be due to Phantom Hourglass always having everyone go back to that same dungeon over and over again. And I may be imagining this. I could have dreamed it. I could have seen it online somewhere. But I think I remember seeing a sign or a note or something posted on the wall inside that dungeon that you would keep going back to, the Ocean King, the Temple of the Ocean King or something like that. That there was a sign or something in it that you could read that kind of broke the fourth wall a bit and mentioned something along the lines of who thought it was a good idea to not include traditional controls in this game. And it stuck with me because I was about halfway through the game and I remember agreeing with it so much. And I thought it was funny that Nintendo would have put it in their own game. But I could be imagining that.
Shout out to whatever Treehouse member put that in the game.
Alrighty. And then there's, on the main overall topic of controls, again, I had no issues with the stylus, and Spirit Tracks was one of my first Zelda games, and I absolutely loved it.
So sorry.
No, I enjoyed it.
Remember how I said he was 13?
Because it was one of my earlier Zelda games and one of my first games I can remember actually playing. By the way,
Oh, God.
well, I'm going to say this. I only was able to finish Spirit Tracks about 3 years ago, which goes to show you that how hard that game can be if, like, it's definitely got a high learner's curve. It's not good for, like, new people to games, if that makes sense.
So Spirit Tracks is the one with the, like, pan flute, right?
Yeah.
You have to blow the microphone.
Yes. It's the one our dear Amanda Van Heil is currently playing.
Yeah. I always get those two games confused because I blocked them from my memory. But I had a friend who lived in, like, Colorado or something, who I would talk to online and be like, I cannot get past this flute part where I'm supposed to play this part. I'm like, yeah, that took me a while, but I just practiced and got it. And he just couldn't do it, claimed he couldn't do it. Fast forward to like 3 or 4 years later when we're meeting up for the first time, he brings his copy so that I can do it for him. And I'm able to do it after not having done it in that amount of time. But it was just like, it's such a bad game.
And the reason that might be is just because of the way the DS microphones work in general, especially if you're also a person who's playing it on, like, the Wii U. Like, the Wii U microphone is so bad. I feel so sorry for anyone doing that.
Yes, well, I apologize for that tangent.
Hey, it's no worries. It's relevant, so.
Unfortunately.
I definitely had my issues at first, but once I learned, like, how the DS sound works, and by that, I mean I learned that literally 2 weeks ago, how DS sound works, where it adjusts itself to be, like, on par or something with, like, the room's audio level. I think it's something along those lines. I can see how it could be easier if you understand that. But I enjoyed the flute. The flute songs were kind of my highlights of that game because I just love the music of that game in general.
Yeah, it does do it based on the general background noise, I think, because, yeah, I recall a story from one Chugga A. Conroy who said he tried to play Phantom Hourglass on a plane, and the residual background noise was enough that he was having a lot of trouble with it.
So I have a quick experience, if I may, with the pan flute.
Hey, go ahead.
I was playing it on the original 3DS that had the microphone on the very bottom of the 3DS, where I think the DS had the microphone on, like, beside or slightly below
towards
the
top,
screen.
I think.
Or was it top? I don't know. But 3DS had it at the very bottom, which meant to correctly blow on the 3DS in the microphone, I had to have the Nintendo DS kind of to where the bottom of it was facing towards me and the screen was facing towards the ceiling, which meant I had to guess where my finger was on the touchscreen. And it made the game a lot more difficult. But playing it to where you could actually see the screen, I don't think I would have had an issue with it. It was just the design of the 3DS which caused my issues.
So I think, honestly, based on all the different types of controls and fighting methods they've tried over the years, can we all kind of just generally agree that just pressing buttons has kind of just been their best bet? Well, I don't know really how to call
Just
it.
mashing buttons.
Yes.
That's how I
Yep.
play Smash Brothers 64. So yes, that's what I do in some games.
All of the Zelda games with button controls suck.
Yeah, but button controls, thank you.
You know, with button controls, it kind of depends on which Zelda game you're talking about, because they've changed it up a little bit over the years. I feel like a little.
Yeah.
So which games do you think kind of did it better, and which ones do you think did it worse? I guess we can discuss that.
Link's Awakening was the best. I loved having to pause the game and switch items every 2 minutes.
But that game isn't out yet. How could you have played it?
I am a time traveler. Did I not mention?
Amazing.
Don't you know it's 1992 right now? At least according to Elias earlier today.
Well, you're not even born yet.
I said 82, not 92.
Yeah, I'm negative. If it's 1992, I'm negative 10. So
Oh, don't say that. Don't say that.
So button controls, it is a very broad topic because a lot of Zelda games have different controls than other Zelda games. Like, the original Legend of Zelda and Zelda 2 I find hard to go back to and play. Like, I think the controls have just been smoothed out since then. The Wind Waker, I think, had very good feeling combat. Getting the bling and the A button spikes out and you do a counter attack and that kind of thing. I thought that was always fun and satisfying.
I honestly think the best iteration of the button controls is probably Breath of the Wild on the, well, I guess it's the same on the Switch and the Wii U, but they made full use of having, four buttons to use instead of two for the your right thumb. Just the way that you switch between granted, you only had like really 5 abilities or items that you switch between, but I thought that went pretty well.
I would actually disagree with you on that. I think that there was way too many buttons that they used and you had to remember. I tried to play Breath of the Wild again a few weeks ago, and it took me a good solid 10 minutes to try to figure out how to switch my shield, how to switch arrows, and things like that. Just because there's so many different things you can do and so many different button combinations.
Well, that's just, there's so many different ways to do that, right? You can pull up the menu and do it that way. You can do the quick things if you remember that. I ended up going to the menu most of the time, but
yeah,
it was nice to have options.
That jump button.
Lifesaver.
That jump button definitely changed the game. Hey, it's the only way you can do Rivali's Gale. Link would not be able to do Rivali's Gale if he did not have that jump button, so.
No, you'd have to play a song and have a eagle or something come and pick you up.
Imagine doing Rivali's Gale with motion controls.
Imagine doing Rivali's Gale with the pan flute.
Rivali's Gale with the paraglider is literally just the Deku flower pop-up from Majora's Mask.
Pretty much, except you can only do it 3 times. Personally, my favorite game to use button controls is Wind Waker for the GameCube. And it just might be the general layout of the GameCube controller, and it was really comfortable to just have everything in that one area.
Were you born when the Wind Waker came out?
Yes, he was.
I think it came out either a year after I was born.
My favorite video game is as old as Peyton.
No, it came out 2 months. It came out 2 months after I was born.
2002 in Japan, 2003 in America.
Yeah.
Like the GameCube controller is my favorite controller, like button layout wise and everything. But
Are you one of those filthy Smash Bros. Players?
No, I'll play Smash Brothers with really any controller because I just don't care enough.
It's true. I played a game of at PAX South. Me, Elias, and a bunch of other people just sat in a hotel room and played Smash Bros. And I think it was consistently that Elias was out first.
That makes sense.
Sure. So I like the way that Breath of the Wild used the button controls, but I think they just sort of got better over time.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, and Jesse, well, what do you think was your best experience with the button controls?
Best experience with buttons. I would say
probably when I was sewing the other day.
No, maybe like Pac-Man. Like, there's like no buttons in that.
Yeah.
Seriously though, Wind Waker and Twilight Princess on the GameCube, just because it offered a lot of different techniques that were kind of. It seems like they may have wanted to do them in Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask, but just technically wasn't able to. So ever since the GameCube version, we've had different variations of those attacks. Where like, not all of them, but what I'm trying to say, is after Wind Waker, all of the stuff that you learned in that game, like the roll around to hit them in the back and stuff like that, was carried over to Twilight Princess, and then you got even more in Twilight Princess as well, like the mortal draw and stuff like
and
that.
on the topic of Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, when it comes to kind of fighting and combat, those two, at least in my mind, are the only two games that kind of had methods of learning new moves and new like skills to do things like that.
I think
and Wind
Minish
Waker,
Cap had that as well.
Minish Cap had that. Okami had it as well. I forgot about Okami.
Yeah, it's a
Didn't
top
put that
5
on the
Zelda game.
list. Yeah, and so I believe Wind Waker had the Hurricane Spin, getting the 10 Knights crests and turning it in, and of course Twilight Princess had the 7 hidden skills with the lovely Hero Shade. Did you guys like how they kind of handled that sort of thing, and would you want to see it more?
So the attack where like you kind of go crazy in Wind Waker, spinning around with the Master Sword, the Hurricane Spin, Breath of the Wild kind of brings back a variation of it. Like, you're not spinning as rapidly, but when you get a big two-handed weapon, you kind of just spin around until you run out of stamina. And I wish they would have brought back the attack to where you roll around to the back of the enemy and then do the jumping spin attack. Like, if you could imagine combining the normal spin attack in Breath of the Wild with Rivali's Gale, to where you can do that as you're flying in the air or like shooting up in the air, I think that would have been a cool way to bring back some of those moves. So,
Yeah.
That would have been pretty cool. Yeah.
But do you think you should have unlocked it, or you think it was okay that you just kind of started with it?
Like, I think it would have been better to unlock it, because that means that there's just one more side quest they add in the game, and the more that a game has, the more I would like it. So you start with the basics like Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, and then learn everything later on.
Hyrule Warriors also had new skills as you went along, which we're just pretending is a main entry in the series for this whole episode so far, so I thought I'd mention it.
Yeah.
It's the most canon game.
Make the answer to all of your questions, Hyrule Warriors.
It has a lot of cannons in it. We'll discuss Hyrule Warriors a bit more later in the roundtable.
Stay tuned.
So yeah.
Stay tuned after this
Stay
ad
tuned.
break. Welcome everybody. It's
There
to the
will be no
Game
ad
Over
break.
Jesse show. You can find him on YouTube at blah 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 blah. Thanks for that ad. Back to the show.
Thank you, Cody. Or thank you, advertisement announcer.
I'm so glad that the Game Over
question mark.
Jesse show is sponsoring this roundtable and financing it as well.
Yeah, just millions of dollars.
Yeah.
It makes it full circle.
Of course. He paid us a great amount to appear here.
With the games that had skills, I felt most of the skills I was learning I rarely ever used them, and most of them were kind of just for show. Like,
Really? Even with the hidden skills?
yeah. Like, the first one is required. You have to get it as part of the linearity of the game, because I believe you use it in the final battle. And so, but like everything else, like recently when I played Twilight Princess, I used the Death Strike or the Fatal Blow or whatever it is, where you just like draw and they die. I use that more often, but like a lot of times, and especially in those older Zelda games, I just, do my slashes, hit when I'm supposed to hit, where I'm supposed to hit, and I'm, good. Yeah, they were nice little things to collect and stuff, but I felt they were more for show than strictly necessary or helpful.
And I think there are some that are definitely like that. Like, I never found myself really using the Mortal Draw or really the Jump Strike. But ones like the Helm Splinter or the one where I think it's like literally called like the Back Slice, where you roll around and it knocks them over, I found really useful in a lot of scenarios.
You needed to use it on the Dark Nuts or Dark Nuts.
I mean, there's potential for some of it, like, and I don't mind if it's just used for fun. Like, Twilight Princess as a whole, 90% of the items, equipment, whatever you get is irrelevant aside from the dungeon that you're using it in, which is one of my main critiques of the game.
Except for the spinner.
Except for the spinner, which you use at all times.
I was going to say, you mean you didn't use the spinner the entire game?
I remember fighting Ganondorf with just the spinner. It was great.
You know, but, like, I wouldn't mind if they just kept being upgrades to stuff. I mean, Skyward Sword had an upgrade tree for, you know, various things, which I guess was a general continuation of the concept. But, you know, what if in Wind Waker you had a hurricane spin and then you were like, all right, but what about the, like, super hurricane spin and the mega hurricane spin? And you just kept unlocking it until at the end you could just destroy an island. So that's my pitch.
I mean, to be fair, you did also have to kill like 10 Dark Nuts in order to get just the hurricane spin, which honestly wasn't that
And then with
useful
10,000 Dark Nuts, you get the mega hurricane spin.
There's nothing I would like to do more in that game than destroy an island.
And if you buy the Nintendo loot boxes, you can get a chance to create your own island.
No, that's only in the remaster that EA made.
Oh, yeah.
No, so what I was saying earlier about Nintendo reusing the techniques in all of the Zelda games, what I was thinking of was in Skyward Sword, you still have some of those attacks, like the one where you jump in the air and come down with your sword. I forgot what they called it in Skyward Sword, but
I think it's just the final blow.
Yeah, they teach that to you, and I always used it for the spiders and some of the other enemies. But does Breath of the Wild allow you to do that? Because I remember doing that, but I don't know if I'm just confused.
I don't
because
think
Twilight Princess
so.
Skyward Sword did, so maybe I'm just assuming Breath of the Wild made you or allowed you to do that as well.
I don't think so.
What's Breath of the Wild?
Is that a Zelda game?
When you go into the forest and
How
you
did I
take
get
a
here?
deep breath.
Who are you people?
Ah.
My name is
What?
Cody.
Elias?
My name is my name is also Elias.
That's
I
weird.
am super famous because I was on a reality show once upon a
My name is Emperor P, so
I don't.
let's
get
move on
that
with the
reference.
hosting. I'm your host, Emperor P. So next up, what we're going to talk about.
We need to talk about how I chased around giant bubbles.
Ah, yes, chasing around
did that
giant
happen? I
bubbles.
can't
That
remember.
makes sense.
Digging in the Zelda series,
Cody.
I think, is a
No,
deep
no.
topic.
No, Cody, you're be yourself again. You
Trust
are-
me,
you
he
are
is
your own
being
person.
Cody,
himself.
Can we talk about
I-
digging holes in Zelda games?
I did invite Cody on my podcast like years ago to talk about
Wow.
this stuff, but it didn't work out.
Wow,
I don't remember that.
Cody.
Maybe one
you-
day I'll get lucky enough for him
I
to
mean,
honor me
He
by
he
coming
missed
on.
out. He missed out on the chance. He was the lucky one. He's the one who
No.
missed out.
My YouTube channel was like a joke back then. I had like 2,000.
Yeah, such a joke. I can only
And now
imagine
you're-
having only 2,000 subscribers. Wow.
I have 6.
Well, the subscribers that were there, they were there because of the, before I started doing Zelda, I did music. So all of the songs I recorded were there. So when I started posting Zelda, everyone was like, what's this? Why are
I
you
can't believe that
talking
Jesse
about a
thinks
video
music
game?
is a joke.
Yeah. Jesse hates
No,
music.
not-
That's what I heard.
Breaking news.
It's true.
Yeah.
I refuse to play the worst game in the world, Ocarina of Time, because music is a quintessential,
It is a
Game
cancer
mechanic.
on society.
and it was titled. I do not play Zelda games titled after instruments. So Wind Waker, gone.
Wait.
Ocarina of Time, gone.
Wind Waker. There's no instrument in the title Wind Waker.
No, it's like it's the thing that you use the conductor
Yeah, but you don't
thing.
know that from the title.
You use it to
It's a
make
conductor's baton.
the. I don't know.
It's true. He's got you there. Cody, earlier you mentioned that you like just the item upgrade type things. So did you guys kind of miss that in Breath of the Wild? How you had real, other than the trial of the sword, really, you had no real, hey, let's upgrade your weapons from, like, the Kokiri sword to, like, I don't know. What
it
is
had
it?
some upgrades.
It was
Tempered blade?
a constant chain of upgrading and downgrading. Like, you would get better and worse versions of weapons all the time. So in that sense, and you can upgrade. They kept the system of, like, finding bugs or whatever to upgrade your armor. I feel like Breath of the Wild in general is a whole bunch of stuff that is in other Zelda games but is remixed. Like, it has puzzles and dungeons and combat and upgrades and everything, but it's just in a form we're not used to seeing. And then some people see that and they go, where's the Zelda? I can't find it. Like, they're like 1 year old and they don't have object permanence, and when someone puts their hands in front of their eyes and then says peekaboo, they're like, wow, where did they go? And those people say Breath of the Wild isn't a real Zelda game. Anyway, continue.
I mean, that was a pretty good, honestly, it was a long-winded but a pretty good description of the sword upgrades, yeah. I mean, I kind of like what they did in, like, A Link Between Worlds and A Link to the Past. Being able to literally, like, upgrade the swords to, like, the level 2, level 3 type thing.
You don't have to lie. Miyamoto's not here. He's not going to attack you.
Oof. I mean, I thought it was clever how you had to go actually find the ore in the overworld, and you had to take it to the blacksmith, and he's like, oh, I can do this. And then you'd find another one in the dark world. It's like, I can do this, but I can do it better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree completely. I wish there would have been, like, I know there's certain NPCs in the game that'll craft you the, like, replicas of the, I don't even know what the champion's weapons. Like, if one breaks, you can go back and get another one or something like that. But
yeah. Each town,
Something like
I believe, has a each city has a blacksmith, and except for, I think, Gerudo Town, but I believe you talk to Riju's like handmade guard thing, and she'll do it. But all the blacksmiths in the various town for 1 diamond will replace the champion weapons.
They needed to make them more like A Link to the Past or Majora's Mask, to where there are 2 to 3 levels to each upgrade, and you would be able to take any weapon there. And even if Nintendo didn't want to be like take the time to make different versions of each of the weapons, like this is going to be the base model, and this is the first upgrade, and this is its final form. Even if they didn't want to do that, they could have offered a way to just increase the durability or the strength of the weapon by upgrading it. So it looks the same, but now it won't break as easy. It'll last twice as long.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, it'd be cool for the future Zelda games, because that was one of my biggest complaints in Breath of the Wild is I'd be fighting a Lionel, and then, oh no, all my weapons are gone. Like, if you could upgrade, if you could just upgrade a weapon to the point where, hey, it's not going to break, or it won't break for, a very long time, that way it's less worrying, and it kind of gets rid of that whole complaint a lot of people have.
They kind of did that with, like, you could get the rusted weapons and then not upgrade them, but you could fix them to where they are not rusted and they're stronger. Like, I think you let the Octorock suck them in, and when they spit it back out, the oil or the ink, whatever they have, ends up cleaning them and fixing them. Did you guys not know about that?
I did.
I knew about that.
I was going to say, I promise I'm not crazy.
And I appreciate that as well, especially early game when a majority of what you find is rusty weapons. It can be very useful, especially because a lot of people head to Varuta, I believe, first. And that entire trail to Zora's Domain is just littered in Octorocks.
Slightly off topic, but still about weapons, they should have made the Giant's Knife sort of a running joke in that game, to where there's just one character that's like, I can make the best sword ever. And every time you buy it, it just breaks in 2 hits. But it's overly expensive.
We'll table that for Breath of the Wild 2.
That'll definitely would have gotten at least a lot of the newer Zelda fans, like, a few times. They would have bought it, like, 4 times and been like, why does it keep breaking?
Yeah. Just get the eye drops. It'll be fine.
Get the eye drops. All right, and Elias, your thoughts on the whole weapon upgrade system?
I do like me the butter sword. Yeah, it's Breath of the Wild probably could have done it a little bit better, but as a series as a whole, I think it's a nice little mechanic. Maybe they'll work on that a little bit for what they're working on next, but no real complaints about that mechanic in Zelda games here.
Now, I mentioned it during the introductions and very early on, but the unconventional weapons you can use throughout the entire Zelda series. Jesse said, I believe, the hook shot, and I said the ball and chain.
Yeah, and I mentioned the rod that turns people upside down.
I mean, I feel like this isn't really even a discussion because we all seem to come to a consensus that the spinner is probably the best weapon, conventional or non-conventional, in any Zelda game. So
it's definitely a conventional one. Like, don't think it's unconventional. That's completely unrelated to this topic.
True.
I feel like it transcends labels.
Fidget spinners are very popular at the moment.
Course.
And by at the moment, I mean 2 years ago. So it is conventional in that sense.
I mean, it was so popular, it appeared in Hyrule Warriors as a weapon.
It was such a fan favorite, it returned.
And Beyblade, of course, was a popular series. So
I love it.
It's great. The spinner is. It's very good for the boss fight that the spinner is used for, and that's why a lot of people liked it. I think it's used for maybe a couple of heart pieces or something, but if it could just replace Epona forever, I think that would be good too.
Hey, for that like fully steampunk Zelda they're planning, they can just go full spinner. Like everyone rides around on the spinner. That's how they get around places.
Link's spinner in Twilight Princess has a very close second, but only in Breath of the Wild, when you pull out a bomb in Death Mountain. The two are almost as useful as each other.
Bomb arrows as well, those are fun.
Yeah, bomb arrows.
I don't understand. It's not an actual, like, bomb. Like, it's a remote technology. It's like having a C4. If I brought a C4 into a volcano, it wouldn't just blow up, would it?
Are you sure about that?
Have you ever tried?
Okay, yeah, I'm not quite sure about that, actually.
Give it a try.
Have you ever held C4 in your hand? B, have you ever brought it to a volcano?
No.
Yeah.
Let me just talk to my arms dealer in Hawaii.
If anyone in the comments has ever brought a C4 to a volcano,
don't admit to it. The government is listening.
Speaking of the unconventional bombs in Breath of the Wild, all of the different runes and stuff, the Sheikah Slate is a magical Sheikah created item. Yeah. I never thought about this until yesterday, but the Lens of Truth is another Sheikah item that's literally shaped like the Sheikah symbol that runs off magic and has the jewel at the top of it, similar to what a rune looks like. So it's very odd that one of the rune's abilities left out of Breath of the Wild was to see invisible things.
That is interesting. I honestly wish they went. This is gonna be another tangent we're gonna go off on here, but one of the things I really wish they did more in Breath of the Wild was the Sheikah. Like, they briefly touched on it with the whole Yiga clan thing, and a bit in the backstory. But I wish we really got to
full village full of them.
Well, yeah, but you never really got to learn like about the Sheikah really. Like, even going through Breath of the Wild, you get to learn about them a little, but I don't really think you learned like why do the Sheikah even exist in the first place.
I'm a human, right? And I can't tell you why humans exist in the first place.
Well, they exist.
So I know a lot about humanity, but there are just some things that just don't come up whenever you visit my village.
They want to protect the royal family.
That's fair.
No, okay, so from now on, I'm only straight to the point. No tangents from me.
A likely story.
A likely story.
If you want to hear a likely story. No, I'm joking.
Nope.
Is it time for an ad break?
Okay, yeah, Cody, give us an ad break real quick.
Okay. Dun, 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 dun. over at twitch.tv/Zelda Universe TV, you can find such shows as Elias does things on Twitch, and Amanda is blind, and other good shows on Twitch. So head over there. It's a great place. That was good. Thanks, advertiser. It's great that Zelda Universe is sponsoring our podcast.
Yeah, I'm glad they're financing the whole thing.
Oh, that was good.
That's one way to put it.
Continuing the topic of explosives, how often did you guys actually use bomb arrows during Twilight Princess? Because I used them a whole lot. They were fun.
I used them when I didn't have to worry about ammo anymore.
So at the end of the game when you had like 200 arrows and 300 bombs?
Yeah.
I mean, why use anything else when the slingshot is so powerful in Twilight Princess?
The best weapon. It's definitely not... Okay, I don't get it.
Here we go.
It would be different if you got the bow at the end of the game, but you get the slingshot, and then you get the bow the very next temple.
They fixed that in Skyward Sword.
Yeah, but a lot of people then were like, why don't we get the bow sooner?
Yeah. You can't make everyone happy.
Does the slingshot do anything other than let you attack bees?
It lets you get through the tutorial part of the game.
Well, it also stuns enemies, and that's what I mostly used it for.
And you get to shoot the little kids in the head.
Oh, well,
how do you know that, Jesse?
And they actually react when you do it.
Yeah.
I know I would react if someone shot me in the head with a slingshot.
Yeah. So here's the plan. We're gonna go to Elias's house. We're gonna shoot him in the head with a slingshot, and see how he reacts.
Joke's on you. I don't live in a house.
We'll be searching for his house forever, because it doesn't exist.
Does Elias even exist?
A valid
What
question.
is an Elias?
I just hear a voice. That could be a disembodied voice.
Welcome to the Twilight Zone.
People say that Elias is literally just half a torso and a head.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
He's actually just... His name is Julie, and he runs our Tumblr.
We have a Tumblr?
Yeah, it's run by Julie.
Okay, then. Continuing on, because we discussed this earlier as well, there have been a lot of spin-off Zelda games that have had some fighting as well. For example, and I enjoyed this one, and I wish they made it an item because they never did, Link's Crossbow Training.
Never played it.
You've never played it?
But aren't you the biggest Twilight Princess fan here?
Not since Peyton came around.
Oof. I mean, that's what happens when you destroy someone in a race of their favorite game. Is they're just like, this game sucks.
Again, you keep saying race, but I feel like you just needed that for yourself to prove to yourself that you could beat it faster than me.
I mean, let's be honest, yeah. But at the same time, it was also good content, and you got to dress up in drag-ish.
Hashtag no context.
Yeah, you should go to our marathons. They're great fun.
Go watch the VODs that I think exist on the Zelda Universe TV Twitch channel.
Over on Twitch TV.
Twitch.tv/Zelda Universe TV. Please watch, we're desperate.
So glad we didn't make another tangent.
Yeah, back to Link's Crossbow Training. If I remember correctly, one thing I do not like about the game is I believe it sold more copies than Wind Waker.
Did it actually?
No, I like this.
Another thing, in the Iwata Asks for Link's Crossbow Training, Miyamoto is on there saying that the game actually began as a sequel to Twilight Princess, but they felt it would take too long to get out, so they decided to change it to the minigame from Twilight Princess, which everyone loved.
Now I'm not happy.
Okay.
And then in Twilight Princess, Iwata Asks, they say that the section it was based off of, where you're in the old Western-themed city, the Hidden Village, was originally not even meant to be in the game, and the developer who created it was kind of embarrassed to show it off because he thought people would hate it.
I loved
and everyone
it.
ended up being addicted to it.
It's because it's got the best music, and it's literally a Texas showdown in Zelda. What more could you want?
He originally didn't want to show anyone because he thought they would not put it in the game. And the second part of that was in the Iwata Asks, they also say that everyone was addicted to the game. So everyone would go by his desk to play it, which means that could be a small part of the reason why Twilight Princess was delayed. Because instead of working on the game like they're supposed to, they all just went to play that village.
Yeah, and they also really apparently loved the fishing mini game because I guess feeding a cat was like, they must have probably delayed the game. They probably all came over that guy's desk and they were like, wow, we love feeding cats with fishing mini games.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that in any Iwata Asks, but I assume that's what happened.
They put way too much time into the fishing in that game, and it's my least favorite version of the fishing in the Zelda series.
Mm-hmm. Breath of the Wild needed fishing, but Link's crossbow training, pretty good for a minigame.
You don't need to fish when you have bombs. That just throw it in the water, and then boom, and then there you go. You got like 12 fish.
Yeah, they even had the water bombs in Twilight Princess.
That is both a traditional American method of fishing and also how I catch fish in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. Did everyone give their thoughts on Link's crossbow training?
I think just you so far. So what about you, Elias or Cody?
I have already said that I had not played it.
I have nothing else to say about Link's crossbow training.
All right.
I know I've been talking a bunch, but literally I have nothing of value to add about Link's crossbow training.
So speaking of crossbows, because everyone seems to love them, another game kind of half-featured a woman with a crossbow and also had a very fighting-filled experience, and we mentioned it earlier. Hyrule Warriors. Personally, sometimes when I'm just angry, I'll go play Hyrule Warriors because, 100 or so moblins, or 1,000, or 3,000, no biggie. So thoughts?
2 thoughts. Aonuma made Hyrule Warriors worse than it was in 2 different ways. The game itself is good. It's not amazing, but for what it is, I think it's really good. I remember reading an interview where Aonuma said that, or no, it was the developers. They said that they wanted to include not like full dungeons, but dungeon-like areas with Zelda-style puzzles and stuff, but Aonuma told them that they needed to make a Zelda game that he wasn't allowed to, which meant it wasn't allowed to have dungeons and stuff. Kind of like in Mario plus Rabbids, Miyamoto told them that Mario is not allowed to jump, which is like the only thing Mario actually does.
Cut to next Zelda game, no real dungeons.
And the second thing is...
So we can blame, who'd you say, Miyamoto for no, real dungeons in... Aonuma. We can blame Aonuma for no real dungeons in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, and the second thing is, with the Wii U version, especially the 3DS version, it was fine. But when they brought it to the Nintendo Switch, especially since there was a recent... I keep bringing up interviews. Especially since there was a recent interview with the president of Nintendo saying that they were going to put a big focus on their online service, I thought it would have been a perfect chance to add online multiplayer, not just local co-op, to Hyrule Warriors. Because if it truly is the definitive version, then why not encourage more people to purchase the game? Because if my friend has it and I want to play with him, then we could just play on the same copy. Whereas if it had online multiplayer, it would encourage a lot more people to buy a copy just so they can play with their friends.
Yeah.
2 things that I think would have made the game better, but for what it is, it's great.
And what about all the combos? Because there was so many different types of attacks that every single character had. It was, honestly, some of them you could tell were really forced and made up, literally all of Agatha's. And other of them were some pretty cool additions that, you wouldn't necessarily think of. So did you like how you were able to get yourself this skill tree of awesome things?
Yes, Hyrule Warriors, I think, is very good. Because it's basically all combat. The 100% of the appeal is the combat. And I put 100 hours into it. I think it's some of the best combat in the Zelda series, in fact. I know there's mixed reactions on Hyrule Warriors, because some people just think that Dynasty Warriors as a whole is 6 out of 10 trash that they keep releasing over and over and over again with very little change. But I didn't play Dynasty Warriors games before that, so there's no burnout from it. I just thought Hyrule Warriors as a whole was a fun game with some fun combos and stuff.
Mm-hmm. And Elias, your thoughts on Hyrule Warriors as a whole?
As a whole, I enjoyed the plot probably more than I should have. I enjoyed the over-the-top fighting mechanics.
Mm-hmm. So, in the future, would you guys want to see not necessarily like the current Hyrule Warriors, but would you want to see like a sequel that would actually be considered a canonical entry?
Oh, this is a whole other conversation.
one that I assume wouldn't cross over like 5 different games.
I honestly
of Zelda.
like they were pretty clear before release that like, okay, this isn't part of the timeline, and so we're just like, okay, so they can do anything with this game. But then when I played through the plot, I was like, I can kind of see how this would be in the timeline, maybe. But yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm good with the way it is right now. I don't see the rush to make another one anytime soon.
Look, the story of Hyrule Warriors was not... The story of Hyrule Warriors was basically an excuse to set up fights. Like, it was just like, here's an anime girl. Uh-oh, she's run into some baddies. Uh-oh, she's found Rudo and some guy. And they're gonna fight Girahim. You know, like, it's sort of it's a story, technically.
But it also had the best design and I think version of Ganondorf in the entire series.
That's because that was the most recent one. Like before that, we had Twilight Princess to go off of, which was a great design. And then they had more time to iterate, and Hyrule Warriors is the most recent Ganondorf we have in 3D, in HD.
And I wish we got to see more of our beloved... I want to see a version of the good Gerudo King. I want to see a game where Link, Zelda, and Ganon team up against, like, Vaati or something.
As a fellow Yiga member, I, too, want to see our great leader return.
Yeah, Master Koga. He's... I want to see him return, too. But Ganondorf... Has it really been, like, 13 years since we've seen a new Ganondorf?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's technically in... I think Ganondorf technically is in the Four Swords games, but I think that's even older than
It was around the same time, but yeah, the main thing about main series games after Twilight Princess, it was Skyward Sword and then Breath of the Wild. They went super old and super new, where Ganondorf was just not a factor.
To me, it looks as if they tried to merge the look of Demise with the look of Ganondorf from Twilight Princess. And yeah. But with the story, I thought it was cool just to see the mix of the characters. I've seen people take the story way too literal. As we all know, Breath of the Wild has a bunch of different references to a lot of different Zelda games, and I've had people comment on my videos actually believing that it is a sort of sequel to Hyrule Warriors, and all of the timelines coming together in Hyrule Warriors explains the story in Breath of the Wild, which is...
That'd be hilarious.
Yeah,
if Nintendo just came out and said, surprise, Hyrule Warriors in between the entire Zelda timeline and then this.
I'd be on board
Surprise,
with that.
it's Lana.
Honestly, that would be a really good excuse for them to just combine the timelines and be done with it.
Yeah, and with the character model, it just reminds me, I don't know why, but the game developers seem to have something going on at this time when they're working on their Wii U games, but putting the scarf on Link and then putting the scarf on Sonic and both games being in development around the same time, it was just a weird choice. Like, the character model itself for Link looks great. There's been tons of people use him in their animated videos on YouTube and stuff, but just I just can't get with the look of that scarf.
Not a scarf guy, Jesse.
What point does it serve? Like, if he's in a fight and like,
gotta warm your neck during fights, man.
I mean, what point does most video game armor serve? Because I mean, if we're gonna get down to it,
Thank you for coming to our TED Talk about armor in the Zelda series.
No, in Zelda games, the armor usually serves a lot. Like, they each have their own ability, whether it's like something as simple as like, you're wearing blue, you can breathe underwater now. You're wearing red, you can walk into a fire.
Well, no, you can't walk in a fire. That still hurts you.
Yeah.
Walking into the fire still hurts you. but the burning intense heat of a volcano does not.
Right.
Somehow.
Forgive me.
I don't know why that's a difference, but it is apparently. So, now for, I think, in my opinion, my favorite, I say
Your
spin-off
best
Zelda
favorite.
game. I say spin-off Zelda game.
Canceled horror tingle game?
Oh yes, definitely for sure.
Is it StarCraft?
I don't know what you're talking about, Jesse, but if it was canceled, I'm glad it was.
Do you really not remember? It was
I
Vanpool.
probably never knew and never care to know.
It was the development team behind the other Tingle games. They were going to make a Tingle game on the 3DS, which was supposed to be a horror game. I have no idea how to make a Tingle horror game.
You put Tingle in it, that's how.
Yeah, you all you have to do is put Tingle in it.
My idea was, if you remember the PT demo, instead of the witch ghost chasing you around, just have Tingle chasing you around.
Oh my god.
Like, full 3-foot Tingle just running after you in the haunted house.
It's like all those FNAF spin-offs they made, but with just Tingle.
Yeah. But I would say that would, just out of pure bliss, that probably would have been my favorite if it was made.
I see that we disagree on certain things at a fundamental level.
All right.
Continuing on, we've mentioned it several times throughout this entire roundtable, but the big monster of the Zelda series that has so many different mechanics and ways to do this, Breath of the Wild. How did you guys enjoy fighting in Breath of the Wild? Personally, I hated it and I avoided it whenever I could.
I liked it, with the exception of what we talked about before of it would have been nice to have some system in place to sort of keep favorite weapons from like a weapon repair or a weapon upgrade, so that I didn't have to constantly cycle through everything that wasn't the Master Sword.
I think that Breath of the Wild has the best combat in the series.
Did you like the idea of being able to do like all these backflips and stuff to kind of slow down time and to go to stop motion?
That was really helpful, yes.
Do you think there was anything you would change about that?
Not offhand, no.
The one thing Nintendo should change about that is finding the spy from Ubisoft, I think, that took the idea and used it in the sequel to Shadow of War, Middle-earth, because they copied that same mechanic to where like you can jump in the air and then go into slow motion while you aim your arrow.
Okay, so when you said the spy in Ubisoft, I thought you were saying like Splinter Cell? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I don't remember who made the game. I imagine Ubisoft because it reminds me of a Ubisoft type game.
Bullet time is a thing that's been getting into video games lately, or since it's been like 15, 20 years maybe. Like, this is a mechanic that in various forms has been coming into video games. And Breath of the Wild is the culmination of Nintendo finally having played other video games that have happened in the past 20 years for the first time and going, oh, that's right, we can do like things. I finally played Oblivion. Now I can redesign a Zelda game. And yet, so I think slowing down time was good, makes sense. I had fun with it.
What you said is kind of literally what happened, because in interviews Aonuma said that he played Skyrim and thought it was great, so he took a lot of inspiration from it.
Everything I say is 60% true.
60% true. Is that the official count?
Yeah, well, it's a percentage. It's like 62.17, but like, you know, we just round it down.
Okay.
Alright, I think Breath of the Wild is great in probably every single category. I don't think it's perfect, but I would give it like a solid 9 across the board, because I think there are great ways to improve it, but I honestly think Nintendo knew how they could improve it. They just specifically chose not to add certain things in because they thought if we add absolutely everything to this game, then we have nowhere to go for the next game. So they purposefully left out theme dungeons, they purposefully left out underwater exploration, they purposefully left out all of these other things that a lot of fans like from Zelda games.
Well, I think purposefully in the sense that they had to release it sometime. You know, there's more stuff that they can do in a sequel, but this is the vision of this game that they had.
Yeah. Honestly, that was my biggest complaint in Breath of the Wild, and I see why they did it, was the swimming mechanics, and how it ran on stamina. I understand why they did it, because, in real life, swimming runs on stamina, but I hated that if you're flying and you fall in the water because you ran out of stamina, it's over.
I mean, that's kind of what happens in real life, so...
Well, I think water mechanics in video games are bad.
Yeah.
And Majora's Mask for the Nintendo 64 is the only time I've had fun with water in a Zelda game. When you're a Zora and you can just do, flips, which for some reason they made worse in the 3DS version of Majora's Mask. But yeah, look, I'd be happy if in every video game in existence, people moved 3 times faster in the water, and there was no stamina or drowning mechanic. I think that would roundly improve video games as a genre.
I agreed with you for a while there, and then you got to your ending bit.
Just make it like you can just swim across the entire ocean in Wind Waker.
Well, you can. If you've seen the speedruns of it, you can in fact swim and or run backwards at an incredible speed to run between islands.
Nice.
It's impressive, actually, yeah. There's some probably technical term for it. So, our final topic of discussion for evening, the future of combat in the Zelda series. So what do you guys envision for the future of fighting and combat in the Zelda series? When it comes to things like motion control, stylus controls, really whatever. What do you want to see in future installments, whether it's remakes or things like that?
I wish to see Breath of the Wild, except with less breaky mechanics. I kind of liked them, but a lot of people seem to be stressed out by the concept of maintaining weapons and get upset when they break. What are your thoughts, Elias?
Kind of the same. I think Breath of the Wild hit a good sweet spot, and handling weapon degradation better, and just an evolution on making some of the more secondary controls maybe a little more intuitive. But other than that, good stuff.
I concur. I default to our one true overlord, Elias, and I agree with him. But Breath of the Wild, just add in Breath of the Wild, all of the combat stuff that it already has, and then mix in some of the technique stuff that they had in Twilight Princess, which I kind of mentioned earlier, and then just expand on it to maybe add in more, or being able to chain them together or something like that.
Yeah. And I'm the same way. I like what they had. I hope they do things like give us a further skill tree, kind of like they did in Hyrule Warriors, or do more skills. Of course, fix the weapon durability. I can agree with all of you. But then again, what do the 4 of us know? We're just a bunch of nerds who are on the internet.
Speak for yourself.
I only know what Cody and Elias allow me to know.
It's also correct.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Alrighty. So, with that, ladies and gents, I believe we are coming to the end of our wonderful roundtable. Would everyone like to plug themselves, starting with Sir Cody Davies? Cody Davies, where can they find you?
Well, if you go to a website called zeldauniverse.net, you can find all sorts of exciting Zelda content, including, perhaps, this roundtable discussion. You can find me on Twitter at Magicody, that's MAGICODY, and when I'm doing other things, I will perhaps tweet about them there.
Alrighty, and Elias, what about you? Where can people find you?
Los Angeles. I'm around there, so they can find me there. Online, you can find me at Elias Thompson anywhere, and like I said before, Zelda Universe Twitch director, so I have a segment on the Zelda Universe Twitch channel Tuesday nights as well.
Alrighty, and our wonderful guest, who we greatly appreciate for coming, Jesse, where can people find you on the internet?
Yes, I am Jesse, or Game Over Jesse. You can find my YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, the Facebook fan page. Everything is literally /Game Over Jesse. We are about to reach 75,000 subscribers on YouTube. We're doing a really awesome giveaway for when we reach 75,000. Beginning in last summer, we had most of the voice actors from Breath of the Wild on for different interviews on our podcast, and for reaching 75,000 subscribers, we couldn't really think of something to do, but we wanted to do something. And we decided to, we got back in touch with Patricia and Sean, Patricia voices Zelda, Sean voices the Great Deku Tree and Rivali, and then Joey voices Daruk and Daruk's son that I forgot the name of. But so they are going to be signing a few different copies of Breath of the Wild for us. We're going to send them the copies, and then once we get the copies back, hopefully it'll be around the same time that we do reach 75,000 subscribers, because we're about 500 away now. If it all works out, as soon as we hit 75,000, we will have the copies to give away, and we're giving away at least 2 or 3 different copies that are going to be signed. So that'll be cool. And the podcast is Hylian Gamescast, the second best Zelda podcast in the world behind Zelda Universe.
Aww.
That's not true at all.
I mean, how many Zelda podcasts can there actually be?
A lot.
There's a lot.
Every 14-year-old with a microphone that likes Zelda probably has.
If only we could imagine a 14-year-old with a microphone.
Yeah, well, we have one right here hosting the show. Yeah.
I was about to say, okay, well, good thing I'm 16.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. Good
I
distinction
was 14
there.
2 years ago.
Hey, 16-year-old, why don't you bring this home?
Alrighty. And as you all know, my name is Emperor P. You can find me here on the podcast Roundtable every time. I also do a lot of things on the Twitch channel, but I don't run a show, so you'll probably just see me making fun of whatever broadcaster is currently broadcasting, except for Elias. He can fire me. And that's about it. You can just see me here, there, and everywhere at Emperor P. So with that, I think we are going to call it a podcast. Once again, thank you, Jesse, for coming, and thank you, Elias and Cody, for coming and participating. I hope you both had fun.
I had an experience.
I had 3 experiences.
I enjoyed my time very much.
Thank you all once again for listening, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello.